a spoon, a knife and fork. It's time for a taste of York. Yeah!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. My name's Jim Morgan. I'm the producing artistic director of the virtual York Theatre Company, and that is the very talented Dennis Cordell. You'll be hearing more of him later in the evening. Tonight is a very special evening, and thank you very much, Dennis. As I was saying, this is a very special evening. It's a group of friends of the York Theatre Company who have gotten together to share some of their favorite recipes with you, interspersed with songs from some musicals we've done that have to do with cooking and food and being in the kitchen.
Yeah, 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 yeah!
Dennis, stop. Enough's enough. We don't have all day or all night. Are you finished?
Yeah.
Good. I hope so. So you get the idea. It's a light summer evening's entertainment of friends of the York sharing some of their recipes with us. You already have the recipes in hand. They were sent to you. So when this is done, you can go home and make... Oh, you are home, aren't you? Well, anyway, so am I. The evening is broken up with videos from recent shows of ours that have songs in them about cooking and food, just to break up all the recipes. I should probably get on to introducing our first guest. She is one of the staunchest ambassadors of the York Theatre Company. She is a fabulous cook, a wonderful hostess, and she's also a collector of autographs and jewelry, who knows what else, but jewelry she has made, some of her jewelry she has made available to us for our online auction at biddingowl.com, the Uniquely York auction at biddingowl.com. You should check it out. She, in fact, has just given me a new piece of jewelry for the next installment of the auction. It's from the collection of Barbara Cook, and it is available. It will be online very soon in the Uniquely York auction, and you could get it for yourself or a loved one if you bid high enough. So you will want to check that out, I'm sure. Where else can you get a piece of Barbara Cook's jewelry but in the Uniquely York auction? Back to our first guest. We filmed her segment of the show right around the corner from me in the lovely dining room of Judy Graham, a longtime friend of the York Theatre Company. And now, here's our first guest, the inimitable Jacqueline Parker.
Hi everybody, I'm Jacqueline Parker. I'm going to share two of my favorite recipes with you today. One is my favorite because it's associated with the York Theatre, and that's the one we'll do first. The second one is associated with Cole Porter, and that's worth waiting for. Janet Hayes Walker, who established the York Theatre, had a recipe for a spread that she would use for cocktail parties. She even recommended serving at board meetings. I don't know if that's ever happened, but I'm going to show you how to make it. We start out with 8 ounces of cream cheese, kind of soft, and then we put in 3 tablespoons of sour cream. Into this, we're going to put some curry, not that much, maybe half a teaspoon, just to give it a little zest. And then chutney, make sure you chop it, otherwise it just won't spread properly. And to top all of this off, a mere dash of Worcestershire sauce. No more, no less. I gave it a little bit more. Oh well. And then half a cup of chopped pecans. You should roast them first though, just to get them a little bit at their most flavorful. So we're going to mix this up. And while I'm mixing this up, This is all soft. This is the beauty of this recipe is that it tastes terrific, and it takes exactly this long to make it. So you can make it the day before if you want and refrigerate it, or you can make it and just plop it right on. All right, I think that's about as much as we need to do for our purposes. All right, so what do you do with it now? One thing you can do is use these little pretzels. These are terrific because you can just put it in. You got enough on there, take a bite, and it's, you don't have the double dipping problem. For those of you who watch Seinfeld, you know exactly what I mean, especially in these germophobic days. So, I like those, but the other thing I like is this. Janet recommended using Triscuits. You know, aren't we all over Triscuits by now? Anyway, Triscuits or Carr's water crackers. I prefer not to do that. I like to be a little bit more adventuresome. So I'm spreading this on, you know, that pumpernickel bread that you can buy in the grocery store. And then my favorite part is, you can cut this into whatever shape you want. You can use cookie cutters, but for myself, at last, my arm is convinced. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's a different event, I'm sorry. So I like to cut it into pieces that are, shall we say, irregular. It appeals to my offbeat creative sensibilities. And if you want to dress these little darlings up, you can put a pecan on top, or you can put a little bit of curry on it. Well, you can do really whatever the hell you want. It's your recipe now. And then you put it on a delicate piece of Wedgwood like this. And doesn't it look like something right for the table for Kate Middleton? I think so. So that takes care of that. Now, this recipe is for a cocktail called the Bailey from the Dorothy Parker Cocktail Guide by Kevin Fitzpatrick. Everybody should have one of these. Great cocktails, all of those old-fashioned ones, you know, sidecars and the Bronx and bee's knees. Have you ever had a bee's knees? It's quite unforgettable. So let us start. Now, normally you would think I would put ice in here, wouldn't you? No, we're too stylish for that, too elegant. We're not going to bruise the gin with all of that noisy ice. We're going to take this, and first thing, we're going to put some mint in there. Are we going to chop it up like a bunch of savages? No, we just rip it gently so that it can exude its oils. While you're doing this, just take a whiff of it. Imagine you're in France, 1930s. Here comes Scott and Zelda up the walk. What are you going to talk about, huh? All right, so we're going to put first some grapefruit juice. Now, in the matter of the juices, we have two kinds of fruit juices here. You have to double strain it. That means after you squeeze the juice, freshly squeezed, don't go pouring anything out of cardboard. Do not, if that's how you make your cocktails, just leave immediately. That's not how it's done. Strain it first in this so that you get the bulk of the pulp out. And then strain it through something much finer, like this sieve, and then just, you'll be amazed at what remains in this one. Anyhow, now we have, for each cocktail, we have a ½ ounce of grapefruit juice. We're making 3 cocktails this evening. So, there's the grapefruit juice. Let that swig around a little bit. Get to know the mint saying hello to the grapefruit. And then, because as we know, grapefruit is not tangy enough, some fresh lime juice. Now you're gonna wonder how this cocktail is going to be cold if we have no ice. Well, there is the magic of your hostess, Jacqueline Parker. We have had the gin frozen. Now, let the party begin. So, we're gonna take this, we're gonna stir it up just a little bit. And then we have some cocktail glasses here. Maybe we can get our hostess, who so lovingly let us use her flat. Judith, it's cocktail time. Now, this is my cocktail glass. This is my Dorothy Parker cocktail glass. I don't know if you can see, but inscribed inside is, I love to have a martini, 2 at the very most. 3 I'm under the table, 4 I'm under the host. This was given to me by that quintessential interpreter of Cole Porter of our time, Steve Ross. Oh, doesn't it smell wonderful? Miss Judith.
Why, thank you.
Mr. James.
Why, thank you.
And Miss Parker, and here's to the York Theater. Here's to you. Nice. Oh, doesn't that just solve all the world's problems?
Turn the stove up a little higher while you crush a clove in my jambalaya. If you won't be fed, I won't be good, baby. You make the biscuits, I'll bring the brisket. Come on, I'll be there all night and kicking. And when you get there, we will stuff that chicken so tight. It's gonna sit up on the platter and fight. Oh, yes, 'cause baby, if you let me, you know you're gonna get me in the kitchen tonight. Tonight. Don't forget me in the kitchen tonight.
That was Salt and Pepper from Maury Yeston's Anything Can Happen in the Theater, which graced our stage last holiday season. And now it's time for our surprise guest. Who knew you would get all of this and a surprise guest, but that's what we do for you here at the York Theater. I'm delighted that this gentleman was able to join us amidst his very busy pandemic schedule. I'm not going to say anything other than, here he is. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When Jim Morgan asked me to be his surprise guest at this special evening we're having tonight, I thought, why the hell not? I love Jim, I love the York Theater, so what could be wrong with it? So here I am, about to share with you a wonderfully simple summer soup recipe. One of the best things out of these very strange months we've been going through is that I've had a chance to do some cooking. I've always wanted to, I've always liked the idea of it, and now I've had an actual chance to do so. So this is one of the recipes I've made a number of times. I really love it, and I thought you would too. It's the perfect soup for a summer evening, which this purports to be. The ingredients are 4 cups of peas, fresh or frozen, 2 cups of buttermilk. You could make it yourself, or you could pour it out of a carton, as I did. A pinch of salt, and say 12 mint leaves. You take a medium saucepan, you pour the buttermilk in it, you turn on the heat and let it simmer. You don't want the buttermilk to boil, just get nice and hot. So the buttermilk is simmering now. You take the peas, and guess what? You dump them in. Hope they don't go all over the counter. And you let them cook gently for 3 minutes. You don't want them to become mushy. You want them to have a little bite to them. After you add the peas, a nice pinch of salt, maybe a little extra. And it's simmering. So they've simmered for three and a half minutes. They're still nicely green. We turn off the heat. And guess what? We pour them into a blender. A big enough blender will allow you to put the whole thing in. You have the mint leaves. Put the top on, hold it down because it tends to be explosive. Voila, beautiful pea soup. Nice. Now, there is texture from the peas and the mint that's in it. You can run the blender again a couple of times to smooth it out. If you like the idea of texture in your soup, I've ended up liking it. The first time I was trying to get it smooth, I found that if you want to strain it, something like this strainer works very well. You do that several times until you get it either completely smooth, or as I said, I actually like it with some of the texture in it from the peas and the mint. Take the blender and the soup and I put it in the freezer and let it sit. And you wait, say an hour, and you have delicious chilled mint pea soup, or pea mint soup, depending on how you look at it. It's wonderful. A little extra salt, perhaps, a little pepper. You could even put some red pepper in it if you want. It's pretty wonderful, pretty delicious, and so simple. And there you have it. And now, it's an hour and 15 minutes later, we're going to open the door. I have a special freezer that turns blenders into bowls. And here's the finished product. The mint on top, you may recognize it's additional mint that's left over from Jacqueline Parker's recipe that you've just seen. She gave it to me, and a little pepper on top, a little ricotta to finish it off, and there we have it. I'll do my Rachel Ray moment. Yum. That's pretty yummy. Wow. Make it for yourself and enjoy. Perfect thing for a light summer supper.
Tell me, where can you have something different every night with waiters wearing colors instead of boring black and white? Tell me, where do you have such a choice of things to eat? A different menu every day. Here we do it Harry's way.
Different menu every day? No, that's a terrible idea.
Shrimp. Monday shrimp tikka, Tuesday shrimp teriyaki, Wednesday shrimp taco, Thursday shrimp souvlaki, Friday shrimp fricassee, Saturday shrimp chow mein, Sunday shrimp parmigiano. Where? Tell me where. Come on in, grab a chair. We're one of a kind. Relax and unwind. Come and get it while it's hot. I promise it'll hit the spots. A different menu every day. Here we do it Harry's way. Oh, come on, just give it a chance. Tell me, where can you take a trip around the world in just 1 week?
Where, Dad?
Right here, Bombay, Tokyo, Mexico, Athens, Hong Kong, Paris, or Rome.
Ridiculous.
Where else? No place, I tell you.
How did you?
No place I know serves different food from a different country. Every night a different spice and at a decent price. Monday pork tikka, Tuesday pork teriyaki, Wednesday pork teriyaki, Thursday pork souvlaki, Friday pork fricassee, Saturday pork chow mein, Sunday pork parmesan. Where else? No place, I tell you, and no place I know serves different food from a different country. Every night a different spice at a decent price. Where? Tell me where? Come on in, grab a chair. Well, one of a kind, no relax and unwind. Come and get it while it's hot. I promise it'll hit the spot. A different menu every day. Here we do it Harry's way. Tell me where? Come on in, grab a chair. We're one of a kind. Relax and unwind. Come and get it while it's hot. I promise it'll hit the spot. A different palette every night. Eat at Harry's, do it right. A different menu every day. Here we do it Harry's way. Harry's way. Harry's way.
That was Harry's Way from Marry Harry, a musical we presented at the York in 2017. The show was made into a movie last fall and is now available for streaming on streamingmusicals.com. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a wonderful little show and it deserves a wider audience. The show was directed and choreographed by our next guest, Mr. Bill Castellino. Bill is not only a fabulous director and choreographer, he is a wonderful chef. I have spent many a lovely evening at his apartment on the west side, on the terrace, looking out over New York City, enjoying some delicious meal that he has created. Interestingly, he moved out of that apartment just this week in the midst of preparing for this show and all sorts of other things, to move to Long Island, where he is now happily ensconced in Miller Place with his husband, Steve and Abby. This next segment was filmed in their kitchen. Here is Mr. Bill Castellino.
Hello, Jim Morgan. Hello, York. Miss you guys. Can't wait till we all get back to business. But meanwhile, we have our quarantine cuisine to get going. I picked something today to make for you that's seasonal, easy ingredients, easy to find, and a really versatile dish. It's called pesto. Now, pesto is usually basil, pine nuts, garlic, and a little cheese. This has a little twist to it that I hope makes it a little more interesting. And away we go. Back in the day, they used to make pesto with a mortar and pestle. That's then. This is now. I like a blender. Some people use a Cuisinart food processor. I really think a blender does the best job in terms of that equipment. So we start with a cup of good olive oil into the blender. And this olive oil, by the way, speaking of good olive oil, some of you may know Sue Frost. Sue Frost had a gala at the Goodspeed where she was honored a couple of years ago, and our gift was an olive oil bottle from Sue Frost. She also gives me olive oil for Christmas. Shout out to Sue. Thank you, Sue. Then, 2 tablespoons of pine nuts. Put that in. Now, pine nuts, if you don't know where to look for them in the grocery store, they usually come in a shape of a jar like this, where you find in the spice part of things. Sometimes it's in the Italian section, whatever that means. And sometimes it comes in a container like this, and you'd find this like where you have the dried cranberries or cashews or other kinds of nuts. And these are pine nuts, also known as pinoli. And we get 2 tablespoons in there. Then we get 1 cup of really good grated Parmesan cheese and put on the top and so that kind of makes a paste in a lime green way. And we put in 2 cloves of garlic. Grind that up. And this recipe is available to you. I think our dear friends at York has sent it out to the members, or it comes with this video, but you can get this recipe, so you don't have to write any of this down, but you just get the idea. Okay, the next part of this is the green part. It's the basil. Fresh basil leaves, which I've washed and dried. You don't want to put them in wet because you don't want to make this any wetter. And my secret ingredient, or one of them, is dried flat leaf or Italian parsley. I like to use equal amounts of parsley and basil because I think it balances the flavor more. And these go in a couple leaves at a time. I get this started, and I'm going to make noise now, and you'll see me just put in some of these leaves. Now, with this gizmo, this would take me an hour. With this gizmo, it took us 2 minutes. All right, now the recipe calls for salt and pepper to taste, which is one of the, I hate that instruction because I don't know what salt and pepper, it's different for everybody. I will caution you that Parmesan cheese tends to be a little salty, so you don't really need much salt, but you need a little. So I'm going to just put a couple of pinches of salt in there. And a little less of the black pepper. Give it one more grind. Oh, one more grind. And that is part 1. Okay, part 2, this is the pasta part. I like to use dried pasta for this. I like to make my own pasta, but that's more like fettuccine or spaghetti or ravioli. But for this, you want one of these dried pastas. I don't care what kind. I buy what's on sale. And you want a pasta that has a lot of edges and ridges to it. Radiatore is my favorite, but it's hard to find. Fusilli is not so hard to find, which are the spirals. And then there's farfalla, which is bow ties, and bow ties are easy. So I put the bow ties, according to the instructions on the box, in very salted boiling water. I also added cut string beans to the boiling water. The instructions say 10 minutes. I tend to do a little less than what the instructions say for al dente because I really do like it al dente, and it keeps cooking even when it's out of the pot. So this is done, and I am going to drain the pasta into the colander and the beans. Now, one of my tricks is to rinse it with cold water right away because it keeps it from cooking. It stops the cooking. Mix it a little bit. I'm going to get the water out as best we can. And I drizzle just a little olive oil to keep everything from sticking together. You'll notice also the string beans in the boiling water get to be a really good green color. My theory about string beans in the pesto is, in the summer garden, the basil, the parsley, and the string beans all get ripe around the same time. And I have a hunch that's why they all go in the pesto. So I put all of that in the bowl. And I'm reaching over here to get the pesto sauce from the blender. and I put it in about 1/3 of a cup at a time and blend. And you may have more pesto than you need for this 1 pound of pasta. And if you do, it keeps really good in the fridge. It also has great other applications, like you could make, use it as a dip for crudité, or you could do some chicken and use the pesto on the chicken. I think that looks just about right, maybe a little more. Now, you also can freeze pesto sauce, but if you're going to do that, I would recommend keeping the cheese out of it. Freeze everything except the cheese part, and then when you thaw it out, you can add the cheese. So if you want pesto. And then cherry tomatoes cut in half. I like to do this because I think it adds a real zip to it, and it sure makes for a nice color. And there is the pesto. I think this works really great on a buffet table. It's a great side dish. Or if you did some poached chicken, you could put chicken on top and you'd have a sort of more of a full-on entree. It works both room temperature and right now. And you get some basil and you put it on top and you say, mangia. So that's our quarantine cuisine for today. York Theater. Let's get our party started again. Again, thank you, Jim Morgan and everybody over there. And a special thanks to my camera person and spouse, Steve Abbey, who's behind the camera, right here. Thanks, everybody. Bon appetit.
All right, let's get cooking. We may not all be 5-star chefs.
Do our best.
On Sid's Midwest cul-de-sac. On this dead-end street. So sweet. But hey, you never know what you get when you turn up the heat. Oh, we're cooking. You know we're cooking something up. We're really cooking. You know we really got the stuff to be cooking. Each week something new. Woo. But before we start cooking, tell me what's cooking with you. Look, what I got, what you got. It's not cooked, it's not cooked, it's not fried, it's not fried. It's a side, from a box, and it's good, it's so great, Just open it up, and throw it on a plate. Whoa, cooking, you know we're cooking something up, we're really cooking. You know we really got the stuff to be cooking. And each week something new. Cooking, woo. But before we start cooking, tell me what's cooking with you. Sifter, ladle, rolling pin. This time we are gonna win. This week we will start from scratch. Betty Crocker, make your match.
Appropriately enough, that was Cookin' from A Taste of Things to Come, our 2016 musical at the York Theater. Wonderful recording is available of it. Look for it online if you don't have it already in your collection. Our next guest is someone who has impressed the York staff over many meetings and special events with his culinary skills, particularly in the world of baking. He also happens to be our marketing director, and he is coming to you directly from his kitchen in Princeton, New Jersey. Here is Mr. Ryan Klink.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Klink, and I am the marketing director here at the York Theater Company. And I am delighted to share with you tonight my favorite dessert, especially around the summertime, lemon squares. We've been making this in my family for years. It's the perfect dessert when you're sitting by the pool, or you're out on the beach, or you're having a nice backyard barbecue. Nothing refreshes the palate like a nice lemon square. Before we get started with the messy work, I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Stay safe and healthy. I want to thank Bill for his delicious entree. Can't wait to have some. And Jacqueline for that wonderful appetizer that you made earlier. And now, let's get started with the lemon squares. This is a 2-part process. So, The first part is we have to make the shortbread crust. So in order to make the shortbread crust, we need 2 sticks of unsalted, room temperature soft butter. I usually leave it out all day just to get it soft. So we'll drop that in a bowl. Then next we are going to need 2 cups of flour. Just dump it in. And 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. Like that. I am reminded of my favorite Waitress song, Sugar, Butter, Don't Let Me Down, but I won't sing it for you. Again, I'm the marketing director. I strictly stick to the desk. So I like to mix this, back to the recipe, I like to mix this up with a fork because it helps to kind of, break up the butter a little bit. But the best way to really get in there is to get your hands in there and get a little dirty. Now, I of course washed my hands before I did this because cleanliness is very important, especially in today's age. And we're just gonna kind of like mix it up like this. Kind of get it all in. And so once it's all mixed up, so you have all the powder and the sugar blended into the butter, wash your hands because it's gonna be a mess. And then you're gonna transfer it to a 9x13 baking pan. One thing I did not say, which is crucial to this point, is you have to preheat your oven. So preheat your oven to 350 before you do this process. Before I transfer the stuff into the pan, a little baking trick that I've kind of learned throughout the years of baking is just kind of dust your hands with some powder lightly. That way it won't stick to your hands while you're making the crust. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it in the pan and we're going to mush it all up. Make sure you get all in the corners and like that. So now we're just kind of spreading it into the pan, kind of filling it all. Just want to say that before I said put some powder on your hands, what I meant was put some flour on your hands. Powder might work, I don't know, but flour is what I meant. So now if you can see, it's a little messy, but you gotta just kind of work it in the corners, get it all in. It should be maybe, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch thick by the time you're done. And just kind of make sure it's spread evenly and yeah. So we're just kind of filling it out. I find it's a lot easier actually to use the palm of your hands to kind of get it even, and it should pretty much be good to go. So that's our crust. Now we're going to transfer it into the oven. So we're going to cook it in the oven for about 20 minutes, actually exactly 20 minutes. And I set the timer. Alexa, set timer for 20 minutes. And that's the first part. Okay, now, while the crust is cooking, we're on to the filling. So, first we need 4 whole eggs. We like the extra large in our house. Pour that into the bowl. Then, 2 cups of sugar. And I had lemon juice. 5 tablespoons of lemon juice. I use this Key West lemon juice concentrate. 5 tablespoons. Pour that into the bowl. And a dash of salt. So just kind of that. And we're gonna mix it up. And I'll tell you, the best part about cooking this is that crust smells delicious. So we're gonna put it on medium. And once all these ingredients are combined, we're then going to dump in a 1/4 cup of flour. The recipe actually says that you layer in, but I kind of find that it makes the flour really lumpy, so I just wait until we mix it and then I just kind of dump it in. 1/4 cup of flour. And then just mix it on low. And now we have our filling. So After you're done with the filling, make sure you stir it up a little bit because you don't want all the sugar to fall to the bottom while we sit and wait for the pie crust to be done. And we have about a couple minutes before the pie crust is finished. I just wanted to take a moment. You might have noticed my sporty Cucini's apron that I've been cooking with. This was an opening night gift from our 2017 production of Mary Harry, directed by the esteemed Bill Castellino, whom you all met earlier, preparing an entree for you. And this can be found online, actually, in our current York online auction, dubbed Uniquely York. This and many other items are one item that you can bid on if you go to yorktheater.org. Some of the other opening night gifts that you may find are Anything Can Happen puzzle that we put together. And what else do we have? Our Midnight at the Never Get coasters, and You're a Good Man Charlie Brown tote bags, whole array of stuff, and much more. So go to yorktheater.org. And in addition, I am also wearing the MTTP Musical Theater Training Program t-shirt. This one is from our summer 2018 program. Go online. Obviously things are a little funky this summer, but we are doing something special with our MTT program and our Songwriters and Mufti program. So we hope to be back up and running for our winter program, which is our winter intensive for college students. And then if I didn't mention it before, our summer intensive is for middle school and high school students. So if you have a musical theater inclined performer that would like to learn more from our esteemed Jimmy Ludwig, who is our Director of Education, and many other Broadway actors and performers who will be teaching acting and directing and choreography and everything that you can imagine, go again to yorktheater.org and check out our musical theater training program. I'm talking fast because the timer went off when I was going through my MTTP spiel, so our pie crust is now ready. Doesn't that look yummy? And the key now is to make sure that you pour the mixture that we made earlier, the filling, stir it up first before you pour it in there, and you pour it on the hot pie crust. And just kind of pour it all on. Make sure you get it all over the crust. So, now, we're going to quickly get these back on, and we're going to put them back in the oven at 350. Make sure these go on all the way. Go in the center, and we're going to cook this for another 25 minutes this time. Alexis, please set the timer for 25 minutes. Oh, hi. So, now I'm cutting the lemon squares. They came out of the oven and you had to let them cool a little bit because they're going to be really, really hot. And so I let them cool for about an hour or so and, you know, just kind of touch it and feel that it's not too hot. And now we're going to decorate them. And we're going to use this colander type thing, also called a sieve. And we've got some powdered sugar in here. And we're just going to kind of, come on, don't be shy. We're just going to kind of go over them and just kind of tap it. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo. Get it all nice and covered. This is for flavor, but it also is for the look. Make them nice and messy. And that's it. That is a fresh batch of lemon squares. Cut them up, put them on a plate, serve, and enjoy.
Miami, here we come. It's happy hour. How about a Mai Tai or a whiskey sour? They say it calms the nerves, at least that's what I've heard. Perfect with Polynesian fufu hors d'oeuvres. With struggles day in and day out, it's our oasis in a drought. Don't tell me that's for me.
Oh, hi. Yes, let me just see if she's here.
Mom! Which one of the twins? Doesn't matter. Just rub some paregoric on his teeth. I know he's not teething, Mother, but it'll put him out. In fact, put some on the other twin as well. Mom! Stop screaming! Stop screaming! A turtle down the toilet is not the end of the world. What? Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. For the turtle it is. Who? Ronnie. Oh, for heaven's sake, Mother. He's 8 years old. He can take care of himself. Mom. I have every confidence that you'll be able to get all 4 of my children under control. For a second there, I forgot how many I had. When you have them all close together like that, it's all a big blur.
Bye! Don't worry if my hemline is too short.
Here I get a dose of sweet moral support. Where else can we go? That would be apropos. Anyhow, drink up, it's happy hour now. A grasshopper would be nice. A sidecar or gimlet on ice. A place we can disappear. Secrets are safe right here. I'll drink to that.
I wish there were dirty mics for women.
Oh.
Where a girl can go to alone.
Yeah, where she wouldn't be thought of as a lady of the night.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll call it filthy friends.
Why can't a girl sit at a bar unescorted with a big Cuban cigar? A crazy Cuban.
Where?
No. That's our colorful cocktail, a crazy Cuban.
Yeah?
Oh, we could use the juice from the can of the pineapples.
Right.
We've got the rum and the banana liqueur.
Perfect. Ooh la la la, a great escape from ooh la la la, the daily humdrum. Ooh la la la, it's happy hour now. We're plowed.
That number, Happy Hour, was also from A Taste of Things to Come. And now as we approach the end of our evening, I'd like to give a shout out to the various people who really made it happen. First and foremost is our videographer, Matt Gurin, who worked tirelessly to make this seamless video you've been enjoying all evening. Amber Wallace, Ryan Klink, and the entire York staff also pulled together all sorts of details to make the evening come together, and we are grateful to them. Our guests deserve a toast also. Jacqueline Parker, Bill Castellino, the aforementioned Ryan Klink, and I guess I'll give a toast to myself for toiling tirelessly in the kitchen for your pleasure. Thank you for watching, and now enjoy a little lagniappe from our friend Dennis Cordell at the piano. Dennis?
Hello again, fellow Yorkies. It's nice to be back. One thing I've learned how to do during quarantine is how to make my facial hair grow in much faster. And since we're in a how-to kind of mood this evening, I thought maybe I would impart my surefire system of success to each of you. So step one is to do nothing. Now, of course, the problem with doing nothing is that you never know when you're through. That's really as far as I've gotten. But if I come up with a step two, I promise you that you'll be the first to know. This is by my dear friend Dave Frischberg, who is a wonderfully witty writer of little 3-minute vignettes of life. I like to stroll on the Costa del Sol at sunrise. And to me, Waikiki is the place to be, speaking fun-wise. I like to dine in a Florentine palazzo. You can laugh and call me fatso, that's okay by me. I like to stick with the first-class ticket buyers, setting trends with my trend-setting friends, the frequent Let's eat home. I like to lunch with a bunch in old Savannah. I know a swell motel north of Kalispell, Montana. I like to eat my sweet at the Savoy Plaza. And I know a bar in Gaza where they serve goat lip tea. I'd jump a jet just to samba one set in Rio. To say hi, how's the folks? Maybe swap a few jokes with the trio. And it's off to my condo in Spain. Hang glide off the coast of Maine. And spend Labor Day in either Monterey or Nome. But if it's all the same to you, let's eat home.
Why you?
If you've made it this far into the video, then you must be a true York fan. Consider making a donation to us in this, our 50th anniversary season. They're always appreciated, but now even more so. And they're always tax deductible.